Haslingden, deep in the Rosendale Valley, is much like many other declining towns in the northwest, where once was a hive of industry and cotton. Now lies empty shops, pubs that have closed down. Soon there'll be nothing left. Change isn't always for the better. Local governments decide that money is better appropriated elsewhere. Soon what will we have in these small towns? The local swimming baths was built in 1936. It was earmarked for closure by the council, and there was public outcry. This outcry did nothing to stop the tide of change. The swimming baths was finally closed. Here are a few stories from the people that used the baths, that loved the baths, and that will miss the baths. Part of an era that's gone forever. It's gone, but not forgotten.
It was a typical lads' environment, was Haslingden Baths. You were only about 6 months at the time to get in. Brilliant it were. We just couldn't get enough of it. But we always got through it with being too boisterous, I think is the word, and what have you, too mischievous, like, you know. But it were all harmless fun, but it's something you can't replicate now, you know, more so now with the baths going. I mean, the amount of people that was afraid of the boards at, like, Haslingden Baths, and I mean, they wasn't very high looking at them, but when you got up and you looked down, you thought, wow, you know, it looked like twice as high. But I learnt to dive on the second board and got like loving it. Then I got to the top board, and it took me quite a while. It was jumping off at first, and then a risky dive, and then you thought, hey, oh, we're all right. And I just couldn't stop going. I didn't want to be like in the water swimming. I wanted to be up there diving on the boards, and somebody said, like, let's have a do off here. So like me, like, go on Trev, you can do it. All right then. So like stood on the railings and put a towel on the top of the railings for like anti-slip type thing, and then off I went. And I thought, well, you know, like the edge of the baths, and I must have missed it by a good foot, and I thought, all right, Caesar, so we all had to do, and we all got doing it. And then somebody said, what about diving off the top of the cubicles? And I thought, I don't know, that's a bit risky, that. So I said, come on, go on. So into the cubicles I went, and I climbed up on the door and stood on the top, and I thought, yeah, I'll have a go at this, and off I went, and into the deep end of the pool, because you needed a bit of the water from the height line dropping down. And first time success, and that rate we were off in there, off the top of there, till we got caught with McIntyre, Mr. McIntyre, bless him. You're out, and that's all you got off him, you know. And then you'd slink back to your cubicle, and he'd be watching you get dressed, and then he'd come in and he'd fire you out, and then we'd sneak back in, get dressed again in another cubicle, and sneak in the pool. We used to go around the pool, and that's all you could see was our eyes, and he'd like come up for a breath, and he'd be walking around, and he'd be like this, looking around and seeing if he could see anybody that he wanted out, mainly our lot. And then you'd hear the whistle when he spotted, and he'd be again, you're out, and that were it, you're out there, and then he'd kick you out, and you could get back in again. You were bad for like, I don't know, the day, and that day after we were back in again, doing just the same again. But I think you got as much fun of like chasing us around and firing us out that we did trying to hide from him, you know, by being just having your eyes out of the water and coming up for the odd breath. But he knew all the tricks, and I think you got as much fun out of chasing us as we got as been chasing us, you know what I mean? One of our friends worked at the baths. We'd sneak in when everybody'd gone home, summertime, into the cubicles, costumes on, and we'd be in the pool, only about 6 of us and nobody else. And we got a bit too boisterous, I think, after about 4 or 5 attempts of sneaking in. and the police came in and caught us and fired us all out and warned us not to do it again. Sadly, like, our mate got sacked from the baths for leaving the door open, and that was the end of that either, really, you know, that were it. Devilment, it was just kids' things, like, but that's what we were like, you know, we were kids. And like with the diving boards, nothing, we're fearless. Once you've been on it and you've done it, we're fearless. And it was a great part of my life, a great part of growing up, you know, which I'm glad I did. And now I can remember things like that, you know, of what I did, and not doing anybody any harm in doing it. It was just that we were wild kids, we were just boisterous kids, and we loved every minute of it, you know. I learned to dive when somebody tripped me up when I was running around the pool and came up in a mass of bubbles, and you can't see anything and you're panicking, and I came up and I thought, oh, that were alright. Full of bravado by doing that, and then somebody said, right, what about up there, the second board, which is probably about 12 feet off the pool. So, like, up we went again, and it was like throwing each other off and shoving each other in, and then somebody had a dive, and then we all did it, and then we went to the top board, which is like 20 odd feet, and I think we did more jumping than diving because of the fear of, like, banging around on the bottom of the pool or knocking yourself out in the water. But once you got used to it, you know, we used to dive off the top board, and on the way down we'd do like a side spin, so you get the water at an angle, and you go down to the bottom and come straight back up, and you're coming just up the ladder, and you just come right up when you stood on the ladder, so you didn't have to do any swimming basically, you know. And crazy stuff like that. And then, like, we started trying to swim diving in the deep end, which I think was 7'6", yeah, and swimming to the shallow end. And I got good at it by, you know, holding your breath and stuff. And I actually got, like, I did a full length and then probably about a quarter of a length coming back the other way, and before I came up for air. So that was good for, like, when McIntyre came out and he knew that I went, and I went under the water and he's doing that, like, and all he could see was water. You couldn't see when I'm giving it this, and as far as I could, and I come up the side of the bath with, like, again with the air, I looked for him and a quick breath and down the ring and off again, you know. And it was great fun. I can't remember ever getting any lessons from anybody when we was at school. It was a case of, like, get in and learn yourself to swim. There was one chap called Jack Dean. He was the PT teacher and also the arithmetic teacher, and he didn't like me and I didn't like him. We went to the baths one, I think it was about a February morning, and it was compulsory. You got to go in and you had to go in the water. There was no getting out of it. Even if you jumped and you come out, you'd been in. And he, for some known reason, he used to pick on me because I was thin and skinny and what have you. And I'm stood on the side shivering away. And he said, right, Streets, he said, get in. And I said, it's freezing, sir, get in. And he pushed me in. And I can remember it was in the deep end, and I fell into the water, and there was a thin layer of ice on the water. That's how cold it was. I think if anybody got into difficulties, the teacher that was with you would probably have had to jump in, or our friend Mr. McIntyre. He probably threw herself in and pulled you out. But I can never remember any safety regulations like there is now. It was just a case of get in and swim, or get in and get wet and come out. You wasn't encouraged to swim by the teachers. To them it was like, swimming today, I've got to take them over there. He'd sooner be sat in school in a warm classroom than teaching arithmetic, you know. But it was all basically self-tuition, that we learned to swim by mistakes of falling in and having to get out and just picking up, you know. I think I started to swim with a doggy paddle. Everybody used to do the doggy paddle because it was easy. And then you go up a notch, and you start with the breaststroke, which keeps you up, and then you the crawl, and you want to move a bit faster, so you've got to swim with the crawl to catch your mates, and it was all self-tuition, you know. And then your mates would come along and they'd leg and wing you, and they'd whiz you at middle, and then you'd think, you know, I've got to get out to this, so you've got to swim to get out, and that's how you learn, basically. You know, swim or die. The amount of time that we spent in the pool, we should have grown web feet and web fingers in the time that we spent in there. Like the school holidays, it was 6 weeks of swimming. And if we weren't swimming in there, we're in some lodge or other, which, you know, thinking about it now, we took a few risks that we daft really. But like learning to swim in the baths and and getting the confidence more than anything. You felt like you could go and swim anywhere. I reckon if I'd had a pool, I'd probably drown in a lodge somewhere, because it was hot, and when you're hot, you want to get in some water, don't you? And like we said, we jumped in this pond over in Rottenstall there. Well, it's glory deep it were, until it drained, and like it wasn't a lodge with a gradual slope in it, like the baths were. It just went down like that, practically 45 degrees, down to whatever, deep. And I think the lodges over there, the one that I'm talking about, 2 people's drowned in that, and then there's another 2 lodges just a bit farther on than the ski slope, 2 square lodges, we call them square lodges. And I think there's 2 people drowned in them, kids in summertime. They've just took the thing away, which is going to stop them doing that, really, aren't they, by closing the baths? It's sad. I feel sorry for like all the people with children now that's growing up, that they're not going to get to learn to swim locally. They've got to go to Rottenstall. I used to like walking in there, and you got that smell of chlorine right away, and you went through that little door, and there's the pool. You're thinking, oh yeah, can't wait to get in there, you know. And it was straight in a cubicle, everything off, trunks on, never mind the showers and in, and that were it. Then we were in for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours till we got fed up, or we got prune fingers, you know. I can remember Haslingden Baths when you couldn't have jumped in anywhere. The amount of kids that used to go there. School holidays like was the be all and end all of it all, but you couldn't walk round and dive in. You could at the deep end, because that had a lot of tourists for a lot of the kids, unless you were like us, you know, lunatics. And we just fearless. We figured nothing, because we'd been in there, done it, we'd learned to swim. That grate at the bottom used to frighten me to death, because I went down, I dived off the top board one day and went down to it to have a look, and I could hear this, and I think it's gonna suck me onto the top of the grate, and I'm gonna be stuck. And it frightened me to death at that grate, and I'm out of there, and I never went near it again. It had a grid on, and it was black, but when you was looking down at it, it looked like it was it'd probably be like 2 foot square hole. And that was the only thing of Haslingden Baths that used to terrify me, was going anywhere near that, in case somebody forgot to put the grid on it, and you've gone, and you ain't coming back up. And it frightened me to death, did that thing. It's like people, it's people my age now who were dying off, and they're taking all these secrets with them. Health and safety, they've just gone mad, they've just gone crazy with stuff now. And they've took away the fun of learning to dive off a diving board. I mean, when I dived off there that day, and I come on, I thought, yes! It's took me 12 months to get the bravado to get up there and have a go, after keep going to edge of board and going, and jump. And then you go back up again, you're thinking, I'm going to dive this time, And then one day I just stood there and I thought, I've got to do this, I've got to do it. And I just dived off, hit the water, didn't bang my head on the bottom, didn't hurt myself, and come and thought, yes. And we fell in and jumped in, and we did just about everything. We used to do the bombs, you know, we jump off the board and you do the bomb, and if you can get your body at the right angle, and there's somebody on the side watching the kids swim, and you just run over and you go, and you do like that, and you just give them a, then you come up, sorry, you know, but you knew what you're doing, you ought to do wet them through, and we did, and that was the devilment that we did, you know. Like I said, when I jumped on my sister-in-law, when I jumped off the board, and my mate's chasing me, and I jumped off the board and turned, and she's underneath me, and I thought, oh no, and I just opened my legs and pushed her under the water. If I hadn't done it, if I'd have jumped on her with my feet, I'd have probably reversed her seriously. But with my legs going in first and then pushing her under the water, and an hour off then, I'm doing my favourite frogman thing, and I'm under the water and straight to the ladder, and I just come up the ladder again, and it was that, and I'm looking there, and then I just gagged hold of my hair and says, come here, you. And they lifted me out and punched me in the stomach. It was a boyfriend, punched me in the stomach, and it hurt. Like I was about 14 and he was 20, like, you know, bullet. I think what we used to do, it was like sort of accepted then. It won't be accepted today, because we'd be bullies, won't we, pushing people in. But like, and I think most of the people when we were in were like wary of us, what we were doing. I mean, we weren't vandals, We were boisterous lads, doing what we liked doing. We were little sods, but we were kids learning to swim and, you know, full of bravado, and it was, I wouldn't miss it for the world. It was great, honestly, it was great.
I've been swimming at Haslingden Baths since the early 50s, and I got in with a crew of lads who did a lot of swimming, and girls as well, and we were there literally every day. You could get in for pence, and it was a cheap form of entertainment, and in the process it made us very fit. And I used to walk there from Helmshore and walk back. And one lad, we used to call him Crasher Holt, he used to jump off the top board onto the springboard and then bounce back into the water. Lots of us could do all sorts of acrobatic stuff, but he was the hero. And we used to play these games of tig, and they'd last all night, and then you didn't want to get out at 8 o'clock when the attendants were shouting for you to get out. Because we were going all the time, I was going, we were like family. And the things that we used to do, for instance, there was such a move as a bombshell, and people would just jump into the water from the top board, tuck up, and it would splash everybody, and it could reach into the cubicles. But we perfected a technique called dive bombing, where you tucked yourself up but you were diving, and just at the last moment as you were entering the water, you used to tip your backside and it used to splash everywhere. We could splash anywhere we want in the baths, down to halfway, even people in the cubicles, and the cubicles had wooden doors. They were from shoulder height to about a foot off the ground, and we spent so much time in there that it's unbelievable, and it really was a good pastime. You could hire a towel or soap, or I never did that, always took my own. And but the height of luxury, there was a brill cream machine there, and you used to put a penny and you used to get a slot of brill cream. And of course, late 50s and early 60s were the days of tenny boys and that sort of thing, and everybody used to slick their hair back, and there were a lot of tenny boys that were just a bit older than me. That era, they used to go out from the baths on a Saturday night drinking in the town, and we used to have what was called the Northern Counties training there. It used to last 2 or 3 hours, and a swimming coach called Ray Scully from Blackburn used to take us, and he was fierce. You used to go in, and the first thing you had to do was swim 20 lengths as fast as you could, so you were absolutely shattered. And then it used to go on 10 lengths arms only, 10 lengths legs only, and all sorts of diverse coaching techniques that he used to use. But in that Northern Counties training, I was fortunate enough to swim with some very good swimmers. There was Anita Lonsborough from Huddersfield. She was a backstroke swimmer. She won gold in the Olympics. And a girl called Diana Wilkinson from Stockport, who was a gold medalist. Now, the school I went to was called Haslingden Modern School. It's on Ryfield Avenue East, and the baths is on the avenue behind it, East Bank Avenue. I used to be in the school swimming team, but every year we used to have a swimming gale at the end of the year, and my name is on a few trophies there. I was the schoolboy swimming champion in Rossendale in '61, but it was a cup that went back, so my name will be on it somewhere, David Walsh. So there's so much history about the swimming club. Obviously, during the mid to late 60s, when people were starting courting, getting married, working outside town, the gang eventually broke up. But we swam at Haslingden Baths into the late 70s. If there were any fights going on at school, they were always behind the baths. So you would meet your opponent behind the baths. I had 2 of these fights and got beaten up twice. So I quickly learnt my lesson not to fight again. Because I was such a regular visitor there, we used to get to go in the room to the right where the washers were and the laundry, and also down into the cellar where you could walk around in the basement and you could see through those portholes. Now, at that time, of course, you never thought anything about the disrepair of it. We were only young kids.
Don't speak to me this way. Don't ever let me say, don't leave me again. Don't leave me again. Oh, you never felt this lost before, and the world is closing doors. I never wanted anything more. Oh, you never felt this lost before, and the world is closing doors. I never wanted anything more. Before, and the world is closing doors. I never wanted anything more. Oh, you never felt this lost before, and the world is closing doors. I never wanted anything more. Don't let me make the same mistake again. Please don't let me make the same mistake again. Please don't let me make the same mistake again. Don't let me make the same mistake again. Oh, you never felt this lost before, and the world is closing doors. I never wanted anything more. Oh, you never felt this lost before, and the world is closing doors. I never wanted anything more. Don't let me make the same mistake again. Don't let me make the same mistake again. Please don't let me make the same mistake again.